You are now listening to PSOTB Straight Out the Box, the power of collaboration, choice of freedom and liberation. Imagine hope, create action, visualize change. Go after the better you. Hey, I'm Taniki Richard on PSOTB Straight Out the Box. I want to thank you for tuning in, listening. If you're watching, viewers, I appreciate you. If you're listening, listeners, I appreciate you. This is season 3, actually, of PSOTB Straight Out the Box. And how that came about was season 1 happened so fast for me. I got out the Marine Corps, had a rough transition dealing with depression and PTSD from combat and military sexual trauma. I had to reinvent myself. One of the things that I always love to do is speak. Poet at heart. I've written since I was 8 years old, written stories and poems, performed all over. I decided, you know what? I have some things to say. And when I got out the military, I started advocating for myself as far as veterans' needs for military sexual trauma, support, resources. And I got with a really great community organization who took the time to reach out to me, helped me to get on my feet mentally, emotionally, because it was a rough transition getting out the military. I didn't want to get out as quickly as I did. I did 11 years in the Marine Corps, had a bunch of great stories, and met a very interesting people. Not all of them were good, though. Some of them led me astray. I had a lot of distrust and for men and women who let me down, leaders and peers who let me down, because I had this idea that if I joined the military, then I would be able to get away from the poverty that I was running from. I grew up all over. My family struggled a long time with drugs, and my parents just, even though they were prior military, they had a tough time keeping us stable. Growing up in mostly California and New Jersey, we moved around a lot. I went to like 6 different high schools, never really had a lot of friends. And you can hear the violin playing in the background right about now. Just hearing a real story about a kid who's just trying to find a way to get free from the trap or the stigmas that were placed upon me. So joining the Marine Corps was my way out. And when I found out, oh my goodness, this is not what I expected. It was tough for me, but it also showed me something that I also didn't expect. I connected with people who I still talk to this day emotionally, and I trust them with my life to this day. And any issue I ever had in the Marine Corps, they were always there for me. So I learned, the bitter and the sweet. And when I got out the military, as tough as it was for me, because after Iraq, I had some struggles with PTSD. I really didn't know exactly what that was all about. So I had some trouble getting out and finding my new normal. So the organization that picked me up was really great in supporting me in where I was in my journey. And what happened was I met more interesting people who impacted my life and inspired me to be better, do better. And this took years. It wasn't just an overnight thing. It took years for me to, grasp that. And once I did, I was hitting the ball running. I just hitting the road running or hitting the ground running, however you want to look at it. I was gone with my new normal. And I started talking to more folks, women and men who were struggling like I was years ago. And it resonated with them. Some of the things that I was telling them about overcoming some of the things that were holding them back mentally and emotionally, they would come back to me and tell me, hey, Taniki, you really inspired me, or you really changed my life. This was wisdom. This was great advice. And I started taking note of that. I started writing those type of things down. I made sure that I had a plan on how I was going to give this information back to the community. And I started a live broadcasting of PSOTB straight out the box. I wanted to get the message out that you and anyone can change their lives if they had suffered from a traumatic experience, or they had some emotional negative things that happened to them, and how they can overcome that. So I had a bunch of guests come on the show. It was a live thing called Bid Chatters. Oh my gosh, it was a disaster. It was a disaster from the quality of the broadcasting. So it was broadcasted all over, even in different countries. Obviously, it's online. But what it taught me was how to produce, how to direct, and how to write content for some of the guests that were coming on and putting together a show. I'd set up in my living room every week. I had my kids, my husband, push out all the couches and the tables, and I made a full-on studio setup in my kitchen dining room area. And you should have seen it. It was quite impressive. Actually, you could probably go on Instagram and see the setup. I wanted it to be kind of like a talk show setting, where it was like, you came in, I offered you water and some snacks, and we took photos, and I laid out the carpet for my guests, and they really appreciated it. And what it taught me was, people want to get their message out there. They want to tell their story. Regular folks, also celebrities, anyone who is selling something that's good for the community. I wanted to be a part of that. So PSOTB Straight Out the Box came organically and solely because I wanted to provide a platform for others to discuss what they wanted to get out to the world. And online is like the best way to do that. So that was season 1. It was a great experience, even though, again, the quality was not so great. I struggled with trying to find another way to capitalize on all of that time and effort. I bought all the equipment. It was an investment. And I got up with a really great entrepreneur friend out of Georgia. And she was telling me about a network that allowed for women to do a show. If you had a show and you had material and you had episodes, they would be willing to put me on. And I told her, I was like, hey, this quality is not great. I'm kind of embarrassed about putting it out there. And she was like, everyone has to start somewhere. And whether she knew it or not, she mentored me. Her name is Georgette Taylor, and she has a podcast as well. And it's really dynamic. That's the podcast. And I will leave that in the notes here about how her inspirational words and her cards that she has available just changed my life. She became instantly my mentor in the entertainment industry as far as podcasting and networking, and any information I would ask her, she would willingly and freely give me that advice. And I really appreciate it. We always would connect every couple months. I'd let her know what I was doing. And so she took on season 1 on her Tube TV. It was a really great, it was a really great way for me to get my content out there. Season 1 slowly became the catalyst to having the podcast now, but I had to figure out, how was I going to get new episodes, new things, new way to pitch this message of going after the better you. So season 2 came about when another good friend in the entrepreneur industry, I say it's an industry because I'm telling you, it is a struggle when you are starting out as an entrepreneur, getting absolutely no help and having a degree in business, but no practical application other than your own wits. And that was me starting JT Inspire LLC back in 2015 with my husband. as Marines, we had that motto, get her done. Well, I was on the fast track of trying to start my entrepreneur endeavors by starting JT Inspire LLC, Jump to Inspire. That's what the JT means. And my goal was to tie PSOTB straight out the box, the season 2, into my business. So I met a wonderful lady out in Richmond, Virginia. Her name is Monica Ball, and the Real Talk with Monica, and she had a connection at the radio station Richmond 101.3 FM 990 AM. And I actually wanted to sponsor and start sponsoring her and getting into doing sponsorships, which is part of what my company does, aside from public speaking workshops and speaking as a veteran in different organizations. So I went ahead and decided, hey, we're going to support you and just put my advertising, my company, and put it out there and for a 30-second little blurb for a commercial during her radio segment. And she came to me and was like, Taniki, you have so much skills and talents, and you always want to be around folks who can speak into your life and can highlight some of your attributes and put it in your forefront. Sometimes, I know my strengths. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I need to work on as far as personal development and professional development. But it's always good to have people in your corner who speak life into you and can highlight some of those attributes. And she was saying how, Taniki, you should be a radio host. Now, this came up a while back. I think it was like a year ago when the opportunity just came up and someone was asking me, hey, do you want to be on a radio show? And my heart was like literally beating out of my chest. I was so afraid of committing to something like that. Now, mind you, I told you I was already a disabled veteran who medically retired out of the military, finding herself and perfected how to overcome my trauma. And here's a person trying to challenge me because I still had daily challenges that I overcome on a 24-hour basis. And when she says, be on a radio show, my heart was just like thumping out of my chest. And I was deathly afraid of joining or taking on that endeavor, mainly because it wasn't the fact that I didn't think I could do it. No, like I said, I love to perform poetry. I love to speak. I love to mentor. I did it many times in the Marine Corps. Speaking wasn't the issue. It was me in that reinventing myself. I still struggled with getting up on time and balancing my herbs and medications and things like that. So, when that red light came on and it says, you're on air, I had to be ready. And so I was actually afraid of showing the other side to myself, like being there and having to say something comes up and I can't commit to this. It was the commitment that made me afraid of being there and doing the radio show a year ago. So when my friend Monica Ball asked, she said, I think you should do it. And there's a slot for you and there's an opportunity for you. I didn't want that same fear to hold me back from walking in my purpose. So I said yes. I said yes. And I did not let my heart beating at the bottom of my stomach stop me from taking this on. So season 2 of PSOTB came out of a challenge, someone professionally challenging me to step into my greatness. And I videoed each and every one. It was on Facebook on the Richmond Rejoice 101.3 FM 990 AM Facebook page, and you can see every episode there. I had guests who talked about sexual abuse, mental, emotional, physical abuse that they overcame, and very successful people. I was so encouraged, and these brave guests got on there and they talked about their lives. We're talking authors, professionals, some people don't like to talk about the hard things that happened to them in the past because they'd have to face it again, or they don't want people to know, what happened to them. When you reinvent yourself, you don't sometimes want to go backwards and explain these things. But I think the beautiful part about the authenticity of a person's life is where they came from and how they are striving and thriving now. So that's what Pursuing Straight Out the Box is all about. Going after the better you, being transparent to help other people be inspired to live a better life, number one, but also see an example of a better life, because I'm darn for sure doing a whole lot better than I used to. And I have no problem talking about that. And I'm very vocal about that. Anyone that knows me knows that I talk about sexual abuse, because I too was sexually abused and also emotionally and physically abused as a child, and also in the Marine Corps with military sexual trauma on top of combat trauma. So I have a complex form of post-traumatic stress, which is PTS or PTSD in some medical forms. And it took me a long time to understand that my trauma was not what made me. My trauma may have shaped me, but it is not what makes me. And so Pursuing Straight Out the Box, season 3, is all about going to that next level, that deeper part of these guests that come on here and talk about what they had to go through in order to get where they are. Some we talk about the culture of setbacks. A lot of time, violence and living in hostile environments can be traumatic for some. Sometimes not having, or they came from a bad example, or they tried to pursue a large or a huge goal and then they fell flat on their face financially, or they ended up losing something from their family members, or something they lost and then they regained it. That is the point of Pursuing Straight Out the Box podcast. So we want to invite people who are willing to share their story, their success story. And part of that success is going as deep as you need to go in the topic to make the point that, you know what, I came from this, but I'm no longer living this, and this is how. So that's the whole premise to Pursuing Straight Out the Box. I'm really excited about these guests that are on my show. We have a couple celebrities, we got a couple local folks, and you'll see that as I do some online who are out of town. I'm out of the Hampton Roads area, Virginia, representing, not from Virginia, born and raised, but Virginia is now my home. And what they say in this state, Virginia is for lovers. And I'm definitely a person who loves on others. And I'm just so excited to have these guests come on my show so we can talk about love, peace, joy, and all the things in between. This show is actually for entrepreneurs. We have veterans, parents, and foodies, because these are all things that I resonate with. I have a show, like these pop-up videos on my Instagram page that I put on there just to get you to, just so I can show you a little bit more about me. It's called I Love Kitchen on at TR Richard #4, my Instagram page. And I Love Kitchen is just me and my husband, my honey lover boo thang. I call him, his name is Brandon. We actually cut up in the kitchen a lot. Me, him, and our 2 boys, Jermaine and Terry. We call my oldest Indy. He doesn't like it so much when other people call him that, but that's my Indy baby. And Terry is my little Cocoa Munchkin. And we're on the show, these pop-up videos, these random pop-up videos I post on there just to show you, hey, I am a regular old person. I can be corny. We like to laugh, and we have a really good time in our kitchen. So I cook up a lot of different meals and different tips that I leave in the kitchen, just stuff that on the go. I am always traveling. I'm on the road a lot. Not, I think more so now than I have ever been. And I'm fortunate to have a supportive husband who definitely loves to support me any way that he can. He has a regular 9 to 5, and he has passions of his own. And I definitely feel like our dynamic, he is the salt to my pepper. He is the sugar to my, wait, hold on. I didn't say that right. Salt to my pepper is like sugar to, y'all fill it in at the end. Give me some comments on how you want to fill that in. But you know what I mean. I'm just saying that he is the great balance to me. And I might be like a free flowing butterfly, and he's more, he's my steady. He's my foundation. And I stand on him and I lean on him in my time of need. And he's there for me, just like I've been there for him. We talk about marriages on the show, couples, relationships. Entrepreneurship is a difficult topic for me because when you're an entrepreneur, you're a freelancer in this business. And you're trying to sell a product, or you're trying to start up something that you want long lasting to make a good income on and be able to pay a bill or two, And so the entrepreneurship world is a very tricky thing to navigate. And that's why I have guests on here who have their own businesses that came from nothing to something. And they leave some good examples on how they did what they did mentally, because that's part of the journey. I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest parts of the journey is in entrepreneurship, you definitely want that mindset. If you got that mindset, all the rest of the things will come into it. Because I had some nights where I was just in tears, just not knowing what to do, or with the next step, or how I was going to pay this or pay that. And entrepreneurship, I'm telling you, it's not so easy. And I want to give that encouragement on the show. And that's why I have this show as, okay, it's for entrepreneurs, because they'll tell you, I have people on here that will tell you the real deal of how it affected their personal life and how it's actually helping them grow in their professional life. Entrepreneurship. So you have veterans, me being a veteran myself, definitely got to represent for the veteran community. People don't really think of veterans when they come to life skills and talents. We have artists and full of talent. I don't know what else to say about that. We have singers, painters, people who started their business who are veterans. So I got like twofers in there, entrepreneur veterans. And I definitely want to give more light to the veterans and our struggles, because a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand the process. They don't understand where we come from. The veteran military community is not as large as you would think, even though if you go into some cities and states and they're off on the coast, military bases are in specific areas. And so it looks saturated in that area with military. But if you go abroad, it's not that common to bump into someone who's a veteran. So a lot of civilians have some issues, or they just don't understand the veteran community. So that's why I definitely think that this is for veterans, because it gives a little better insight on how we can overcome some of those combat traumas and things that happen in the military, those type of traumas, but also educate the civilians on the everyday veteran and what we do and what we love, and give them some better insight on that. When it comes to parenting, I mean, listen, there are a lot of parents out there who would like to do things better. You love your kids, you want to do better, but you also want to maintain your individuality. Parenting is a hard and tough thing too. I would say, I don't know which one is more tough, entrepreneurship or parenting, because you're definitely trying to still sell something. You're trying to sell your kids on a better life. Don't be like me or be like me. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, it's hard in parenting in today's society with technology. And I'm a little bit, I think, more of a traditional, modern, open-minded parent. So I think I love the discipline of the traditional teachings. And yes, I believe in butt whoopings. Some of y'all may disagree, and that's okay because you are entitled to your opinion. But my whole thing is, sometimes you have to immediately teach a child, and sometimes, consequences come with that belt. And I don't believe in abuse. And some would even argue that even putting a strap to a child or open-handed spankings are abuse. I would love to hear from you. I definitely want to hear your ideas on that, because things are changing more and more. We're talking about a child's psyche and what affects them negatively or positively. And listen, I got whooped when I was a child, and I know it was abuse, and I turned out great. But that's no excuse to want to carry on those type of different traditions when, more than likely there's other ways to handle things. So I learned both sides. So I have some parents on here that are willing to talk, who are professionals in all different walks of life. We're going to have parents talking about raising their child and some of the things on how they overcome in their abuse and how they are trying to make sure they cut that learned behavior off. Don't teach your child your triggers. And that's why their parenting is on the show, because it's all about helping the positive message of transformation. And so in parenting, of course, if I can help transform myself and then in turn transform another through that person, that's great. And I want to talk more about that on the show. So I talked about foodies, and I love kitchen. I love to cook. That's my way of just escape. I love to cook for big families and friends. And I think I come from culture. My mom and my dad were big cookers, and we always had a party for everything. My family's from Trinidad and Tobago. And it was just interesting things. It wasn't always hard times. It was good times too. And so I think I took on that tradition of cooking and loving to bake and cook things in the kitchen, try new things. And so it actually helped me a lot with the way I viewed my life. I would work things out in the kitchen. And some people do running as exercise, as a way to escape and get their minds right. Some people read, and part of what I love to do is be in the kitchen and cooking and doing something for my family that I can create. So the kitchen is my canvas, and I love to be in there and have adventures. I would like to say it's adventures in there. So Pursuing Straight Out the Box season 3 is going after the better you for you, but also when you go after the better you're impacting those around you. And so I'm so glad that you decided to tune in and listen in on some of these conversations that can give you insight, professional tips, and resources that will help you in your everyday going after the better you. You can reach me and continue the conversation about this episode on at TR Richard number 4, and Facebook is the same thing, TR Richard number 4. My company, JT Inspire, that I said I co-founded with my husband, Brandon. You can find information about my company on www.jtinspire.com or call me at 757-761-5600. You're more than likely get my assistant to follow up with you, but definitely if you want to talk to me and reach out to me, hit me up on social media. That is really me. It's not someone that I paid to answer my messages. And maybe, hey, you never know. I might be traveling so much that might have to be an option. But right now, you can catch me and get me on Instagram or email me at tanikirichard@jtinspire.com. I will definitely reach back out to you. Give me some time, because as I'm editing and doing what I need to do to make these videos and episodes quality for you, I definitely want to take the time to continue to run my business. And my company is thriving this year. I'm so glad that we got to partner with a couple schools and We do some mentoring, and we have a couple of speaking events that are coming up, international and local here and national. I'm really excited to share my journey with you. I'm always doing something, and those things have always been a way for me to just continue to get the message out there that you can overcome your trauma. You can become the better you. So this is it, you guys, episode 00 for season 3. And tune in to episode 1, where I have my first guest, Brandon Richard, who is kicking it off for us. It's only right? Of course, he's the co-founder of JT Inspire, and PurSUance straight out the box is all about, going after the better you. So I definitely want to bring on my special guest, Brandon Richard. So you tune in for that. He is a cybersecurity guy. He's going to be talking about that. And then also how he is affected and how his life is going as a African American here in America. I think what we definitely want to bring about is, as culture has shaped us, we as a people definitely have to come back to a place where we harness that community and we have the education to find out what success looks like for us. So we have that open and candid conversations along with other things. So please tune in. Make sure you hit me back up again at trrichard4 on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be looking out for you. Let's continue the conversation. Hey, it's Taniki Richard on PurSUance Straight Out the Box. Check me out on Instagram and Twitter at trrichard4, hashtag PSOTB, hashtag PurSUance SOTB.